are none. Presentation of petitions, item 6, there are none. So that brings us to the performance exceptions report for January. And Peter, welcome to the table. And I'll just ask you to make any remarks on this report before we move to questions. Thank you.
Good morning, thank you. The overwhelming impression of this report is stability. Results are very much the same for levels of service and capital as they were in the last report. We've got some of the key managers here to help answer questions on some of the levels of service exceptions if that's required. But we're sitting at just over 80% on level of service delivery compared to 81 and a bit for September last year. So very stable view. Having said that, my team and the executive team have developed a process for targeting levels of service that might be salvageable before year end. So rather than a flat report that lists everything, we're now taking those ambers to the executive team and working with the managers concerned to say, look, these ones are the ones where you're quite close. With a bit of extra effort, focus, teamwork, intervention, it's possible these could be brought over the line by year end. And so for the second half of the year, there's quite a focus on getting those that might be rescued, and hopefully that 80% will go up to the 85 that you were looking for. There's not many required to do it, and the focus is there. We'll look at specific ones when we get to the exceptions appendix at the back. In terms of the capital program, the watch list, this is watch list projects in whole of life, which is different view from what the Project Management Office will give you for the current year. We're sitting at 90%. You might notice from the historical trends graph there that both the major cycleways and watch list projects are significantly tighter compared to the historic norms. And the watch list has only really been at 90% once before since July 18. So both sets of work are coming in very close, being much more tightly managed than historically they have been. There's not much point in labouring some of the other graphs because they simply reflect that stability around the level of service delivery, and that takes us through to the exceptions themselves. At this point, I'll just remind you that I endeavour to answer the questions I can, but these cover the entire spectrum of council services, and there will be times when I can't answer and we need to defer to the subject matter expert. We have Helen here who can talk to any of the 3 water issues, but if it's a particularly technical issue, I may have to ask you for permission to come back with a report from the manager concerned rather than answering it on the spot. So if there are any questions about the exceptions, I'm happy to take them now or go back to the subject matter expert as required. There is also one level of service proposed for deletion, and we have some wording in the resolution on that. That is the level of service around supporting business sector resource efficiency. There's simply an error there from the staff that when the budget for that was cut in the last annual plan, the level of service that goes with that budget should have also been deleted. So the area is now seeking permission from council to formally delete that level of service. That won't trigger any consultation implications. It's not a significant level of service in a significant activity. Council can decide to delete it. We just need to notify audit to cover any reporting implications at year end. So with that, does anybody have any questions about the exceptions themselves?
All right, thank you, Peter, and thanks for highlighting, that one of the key features of this report is stability. Is that something that we're expecting to continue to be a theme until year end?
By and large, when you're at this point in the year, you're seeing very close to what you'll get at year end. That's historically the pattern. That doesn't mean something can't happen. We've certainly learned that over the years, but by and large, what we're trying to do is pull back that last 5% that we can find, rather than seeing any great volatility.
And thanks for drawing attention to that new, what you might call targeted intervention approach. That's highlighted in paragraphs 1.5 and 1.6 in the report, and thanks for highlighting that. And then my only other question relates to the level of service that's the subject of that additional recommendation. So this is the second bullet point on page 21 of our agenda. Out of the 5 new levels of service exceptions this month, 3 are forecast red will fail to meet target. 2 in strategic planning and policy for supporting business sector resource efficiency. This target will not be met because the consultancy budget was removed following the COVID lockdown budget review. So what we're saying, Peter, is that this was simply an error where we removed the funding and we made an error in not removing the corresponding levels of service at the same time.
That's correct. It was a difficult time of year for the staff, and it's simply an error that the level of service should have been deleted at that time.
So just I guess more of a technical question. The report refers to 2 levels of service in strategic planning and policy, and the resolution just refers to 1 level of service. Is there a second level of service that should be added into this resolution?
No, the resolution's correct. It refers to level of service 17.0.34.2. While there are 2 that are exceptions, only 1 is proposed for deletion, and that's the resource efficiency one.
So the other one stands?
Yes.
So we're expecting to meet the level of service or to continue monitoring that level of service on the other one?
That's right, it stands.
So there was no error with one. The one in the resolution is the one that there was an error with?
Yes.
All right, that's fine. Thank you very much. All right, moving to other questions. Yanni.
Just note on the PT infrastructure that we're target's 86%.
Can you give page numbers
Yeah,
as you
sorry,
highlight
page
these as well?
28. The monthly average is 77%. I'm just really concerned at the remedial action because we've invested a lot in public transport bus priority lanes down Riccarton Road and Main North Road. And so are we able to get some sort of evaluation of what's causing the delay and what effectiveness that investment has had? Because some of us have raised continuously the concern that although we spend a lot of money on those projects, the benefit that we actually get for journey time isn't being matched because of other things that happen along that corridor. And, you know, Main North Road was a classic where we put a signalised pedestrian crossing that stopped traffic at the same time we put a clearway in for the bus to increase its flow. So I'm just concerned that we have a better remedial action in that one to really understand what's causing the problem, given the amount of money that we've invested in it.
That's a completely fair observation. I'll work with Richard to come back to you with a more detailed, a remedial action that will be more detailed.
Thank you. That'd be really
It's
good.
possible, and this is a horrible thing to do, that Lynette may be able to help.
I'll just speak to that one.
Oh, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the bus priority measures throughout Christchurch, we don't actually have a comprehensive program or suite or network of bus priority measures. We have a lot of bits and parts of the network which work. They work okay, to put it bluntly. They're not very well aligned at this stage, and hence the reason why the organisation has approved the business case late last year to put more investment into public transport and ensure that those key routes, the 5 key routes, do have public transport priority measures along them. But at the moment there are a lot of gaps in those key corridors. So that's one of the reasons why you will see that level of service that we struggle to meet. Of course, as you'll be aware, we also don't run the buses, and there's only so much we can do as an organisation to improve on that. We can provide the PT priority measures, but there's a whole lot of things which influence the efficiency of the bus service, and we're just a bit player in that.
So sorry, can we get a report back then, or a memo, on the journey time savings that have accrued to the bus priority lanes that we've put in, and what the expected outcome was when we approved the project versus what's actually happened since those bus lanes are in? Is that something we could get?
Could you tell me a project you're referring to? You're referring to the
Well,
Papanui
there's-
Road ones or the Riccarton
there's-
Road ones?
There's Riccarton Road and there's Papanui Road.
So that, yeah, look, in terms of Riccarton Road, in terms of Papanui Road, we put some measures in pre-quake, but there was always a gap along May North Road, of which we've addressed recently. So, but there's still gaps in that network. If you look at Merivale as well, obviously the buses get held up along there. So we haven't got a continuous network of
Well,
bus
that's not my
priority
question.
measures
That's
along.
with respect, like my question is, for the investment that we've made on the basis of which we've made it to get the benefit, how do we know how that's performing? That's all I'm interested in.
Mr Chair, it's too early for this data, in all fairness. Richard's telling us that it's not complete yet, so we can't really...
It's, Mr Chair, it's a bit like putting in, say you've got a major cycleway and you put in a couple of sections and you've left out another section. Of course, it's not going to work at an optimal manner. If you put in the whole program, that's when you get the benefits, and that's what the business case the
Sorry,
council
I
endorsed prior to Christmas.
I understand
spoke to.
that, but when we approved, we had a big debate at this council, and we were given benefit journey times of approving the expenditure, right? And all I'm asking for is to understand what's happened with those journey times, not the whole route. I appreciate that for the whole route, it'll be different, right? But for the ones that we've signed off on as a council, on the basis of this is the improvement that's going to happen, we must be able to measure that.
So has the improvement, so has the project delivered the improvements that were expected, realising that that's only a small part of
And I'm not
that
expecting
particular
staff to
route?
answer that today, but I think when you look at this performance measure and see that we're not meeting that target, it would be good to understand the nature of the investment that we've made and the benefits that we expected to see whether it's happened or not.
All right, so Richard, are you able to take that away and come back to us with an answer, which may reflect the answer that you've provided verbally, but there may be something that goes back to the information that was put in front of council when we made that decision, and whether we're achieving what was expected from the decision that we made at that time, comparing what's happening on the ground to service improvements that we expected from any information that was provided to support the decision.
Yes, Mr Chair, I can come up with something.
Great,
Thank you.
Thanks. And just the final question from me was on page 30. And it's just looking at the roads and footpaths, the respond to customer service requests within appropriate timeframes. And it says changes are still required to the hybrid SLA response times pending provision of transport ticket structure. It's a key priority. Changes already made have shown truer reporting, better reflecting our response to currently 80% compared to 33% that was being reported, and greater than 80 is council's typical target, which is now being achieved. I just found that section quite confusing. So basically, our target is greater than 95%. We've got a typical target that's lower than that. And there's a change to the system which has increased it from 33% to 80%.
So essentially what that's largely referring to is transport maintenance contracts, and within them we have different response times across the board. So depending on what it is, the maintenance contractor should be responding either within a few hours, or it might be something more substantive that takes months within which for us to come up to a solution with the problem. When these were initially put in through the hybrid system, it probably didn't reflect the range of response times in there, so that was the rationale for the low percentage, because some of the things we were just never going to do within a 24-hour turnaround time, and that's what we had for some of those things. So say you got someone who complains about a pothole on a road. Now, if we were coming along a month later and resurfacing that road, we wouldn't go in and fill in the pothole. Now, what that might have shown on Hybris is that we failed our level of service because we have a 48-hour turnaround time for potholes or something like that. But that was a deliberate fail, if for want of a better description, because we wouldn't want to do something twice. So now Hybris better reflects what our turnaround times are, and what's in our contracts. So that's why we're getting up to a level of circa 80%. It's not as good as we'd like it to be, but it's a significant improvement on what it was previously. I think the challenge for us this year is that, you know, in transport we get 36 odd thousand hybris tickets a year. This year the trend and numbers seems to be higher than what we've had in previous years. So, you know, we're struggling to keep up with the demand for them.
So just, I mean, I just wanted to acknowledge the team that do the water supply. The reporting that we got eventually in the memo was excellent, and it gave a really good breakdown around the response times and where we were failing and what we were delivering on. And I thought, actually, that's quite good. I wonder if we can get something similar for transport, because it is quite hard just to look at this and kind of understand. But I think it was really, really good from the water supply guys when they showed us, here's the extent of the problem, here's the ones that we're currently meeting the target for, the urgent, here's the ones that are overdue, and here's the process to get caught up.
Yeah, this is just a very high level snapshot. Obviously, there's a lot of detail that sits underneath that, but if you want me to prepare a memo which better outlines the kind of the trends, and we have all that data readily available, so and we can graph it up for you.
And would it show key areas where we're not meeting our target versus the ones that we are? Like the
we can certainly do that, and it's not specific to some of it's locational, so it's geographic as well. So it's just, but anyway, we can come back to you with that.
And then I guess related to that is, what's the remedial plan? Like, we're being overwhelmed with demand. Are you seeking extra budget? I know further in our report, there's actually an underspend because we've reduced maintenance on road landscape. So, you know, again, can we get a clear remedial action and cost if we want to catch up to the target, or maybe we don't? But
we can provide you with an update on where we've been at in previous years and where we're at this year and how we intend to address it. So it's not necessarily just a matter of chucking additional resource at it. We can be more efficient in terms of how we do things. In terms of the road maintenance contract and the underspend in there, that's a separate issue to the one you're raising here, which is around hybris tickets. So I'd be happy to speak to that if you want me to, or if that's another question.
All right, thank you. Now I've got Jimmy and then Mike. Jimmy.
Thank you, Chair. I have two questions. First, on page 24, regarding to the water supply. I just don't know how to measure, you know, those percentage, because in here you emphasize the urban residence supply. Those percentage target 99.8, but actually is 0. But under those, your information looks like it's not a 0, so I don't know. Because work underway, reconfirm those 3 secure board. Criteria 1, you down to 20% and 60%. So I don't know how to evaluate this one. Or you just one perfect, 100, then 0. But you still have progress, I don't know. And also whether each criteria have any time frame or milestone to follow up.
So Helen, I might get you to come to the table to answer that particular set of questions.
On page 24.
Thank you.
So, in short, until we've met each of those three criteria, 100%,
yes,
we cannot get protozoal sign-off. So, making progress doesn't mean you can have half sign-off. You've either completed or you haven't.
Oh, so that's a criteria. But how about criteria 2? Because you have under, you know, the
Criteria,
kind of,
criteria 2 is
several temperature below ground. What's the target that can fix it?
Criteria 2 we have completed in terms of we have sufficient wellheads now to supply the city.
Okay.
So the other ones that we're doing are the temporary below ground ones which can be raised up, and some replacement wells. So we're complete on criteria 2, and criterion 3, similarly, we meet that within the city. But until we complete criterion 1, complete that work to the satisfaction of the drinking water assessor, we cannot get sign-off.
Okay, thank you. Second question on page 31. 31 is regarding the parks and the foreshore. The target is 100% customer service request but actually it's a 66%. I just want to know regarding to the community parks, the presentation, a moment 9 years down, am I right? When this will be, you know, will be the happen?
I'm sorry, I can't speak to the parks CSRs in any detail, Jimmy. I'll have to work with Andrew Rutledge to come back to you with a reply on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
So if you can
thank
come
you.
back to us on that one, that'll be fine. Jimmy, thank you. Mike?
Thank you. I didn't have any questions till there was a comment from a previous councillor about a signalised pedestrian crossing on Main North Road. So I just wonder if I could ask Richard a question on that to actually clarify. Thanks, Richard. I guess the comment was that we've put in a crossing that stops buses. That crossing is actually at the super stop where buses stop and is there to allow the bus users to actually cross the road safely. Is that correct?
That's correct. It
Thank you.
provides legibility between incoming and outgoing buses. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, are there any further questions? All right, so I'm happy to move what are now 2 resolutions in front of us, to receive the information provided in the report and then to remove the level of service that we discussed earlier. I'm happy to move those. Do I have a seconder? Jimmy Chen. All those, is there any debate on this? All those in favour say aye. Against? That's carried. Okay, so then moving on to the next item, item 8.